What's up, party people? It's Keys Dan with RadioWhat.com, DJLittleRock.com, coming to you live and in living color from the Radio What studios. And this is my podcast, What Makes You Famous? It's an extension of the RadioWhat.com internet radio station that I've been running for quite some time. And if you need DJ services, where do I always send you? DJLittleRock.com. One more time, DJLittleRock.com. Check availability and get a free price quote, and maybe you could have me at your next event. You know I like to party with the people. The people need to be entertained. Are you not entertained? Let me entertain you. Speaking of entertainment, today on the program, I have Bruce Coughlan. Oh, you've definitely heard that name. Oh, and if you haven't, you need to know that name. Musician out of Vancouver, Canada. Oh, Canada. Oh my goodness, out there on the Pacific coast in the Great White North. But he comes down to the States. He comes down to the colonies from time to time and puts his spin on folk music and Irish music and Scottish music and me rock, country, pop. Yeah, you pick it. He'll probably play it. Almost no limitations on Bruce Coughlan, but you're going to get to hear a little bit more about him in the next few minutes. So stick around. This week's shows. Let's see. On Friday night, I will be at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. The usual Friday night video dance party karaoke jam. Yes, I said karaoke. You're the stars of the show. It's a little concert starring each and every one of you at the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. The place to be. Oh my goodness. 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. They got a full bar. Kitchen's open. Delicious food. Oh my goodness. Delicious food. You think it's bar food? No. The same person that owns the Rab owns the Italian restaurant. So it's delicious food at the Rab. And they got pool tables. They got 10 diamond style pool tables. They got a pool tournament on Friday night. So if you want to try your hand at playing pool, I encourage you to check out the Rab in Conway, Arkansas. The video dance party karaoke jam from 8 p.m. until 12:30 in the AM. And then on Saturday, I have a wedding all the way down in Hot Springs, Arkansas. So exciting. But unless you're invited, you cannot come. Why am I mentioning it? Because I have weddings. I love weddings. Oh my goodness. I get to be a part of people's big day. I get tongue-tied and twisted just thinking about how excited I am to be a part. And it's also people that I've done parties for. I did her 50th birthday, and now I'm doing her daughter's wedding, which is so cool. It's nice. It really is. I get to become part of this family's memories, and it's an honor and a privilege. All right. So enough intro. Let's get into it with Bruce Coughlan. I got him on Zoom. Usually I do these on Skype, but I got him on Zoom. Just it's going to look a little bit different on the video version of this. But if you're listening to the audio version, it shouldn't look any different. It might sound a slight bit different, possibly. I don't think so. I think it sounds just fine. But if you're listening to the audio version, check out the video version on my YouTube page, youtube.com/user/KeysDan. Zooming Bruce Coughlan now. Bruce Coughlan, what's up, man?
Oh, a whole lot of stuff.
Okay. All right. Well, I know that you're in the folk singer genre, in the Irish jig genre. I think that I might be half Irish. I have a kilt that's Irish national, so I know I get to wear that on St. Patrick's Day at least once a year. Really? I get to wear that. But I know you, man, listening to your music, love it. It's cool. It's mellow. And it's folksy, it's Irish, it's okay. You had Gordon Lightfoot on your bio there, and it said somewhat the likes of Gordon Lightfoot, and I think so. Gord's Gold was probably one of the first albums that I owned. I stole it from my mom and dad, and I loved it. I played it over and over and over when I was just a little baby DJ back in the 70s. But, this story is not about me. It's about you, Bruce Coughlan. I need to know. The people need to know more about you. I have no idea why you're even talking to me. You're already famous. You're already somebody who's been around for years and years and years perfecting your craft. But you tell the people who you are.
Okay. Well, like you said, I've been at this for years and years, since my first elementary school folk band in 1972. And that was 50 years ago. So I've been at that long. I had my first garage band when I was 13. By the time I was 14, I was busking on the streets and hanging out in hippiedom, rec beach, drum circles, ballad circles, and folk clubs and stuff like that. So it was quite an adventure being a West Coast, a little bit late, a younger, next generation hippie, so to speak. And that inspired me. From the time I've been 16, I've been a full-time musician.
Well, West Coast, you say West Coast, and, all of the people, I have a majority of my listenership in the United States. When you say West Coast, it's Canada. Canada's West Coast, like way up in the Pacific, in the Great White North. Take off, you hoser.
Yeah, well, something like that. I do spend a lot of time in Washington and Oregon. There's a lot more people between Vancouver and Portland, Oregon. Vancouver, Canada, and Portland, Oregon. There's about 9 million people. You'd have to go about 3,000 miles east in Canada to run into that many folks. So we're kind of a tight packed bunch out here in the West, and our culture and my fellowship, followers, and that sort of thing are all through. Right down to about Northern California. Spent the last 25 years kind of making friends up and down the coast.
Well, I'm born in 69. So 72 is, I'm just 3 years old, but I'm still developing a love for the music, for the times. You're already getting into it. This is the Vietnam War. This is peace. I guess the hippie culture has been shut down by the Manson family. Tell me, as you were coming into your own, as you were, your formative years, what is it colored by, as you're starting this music career?
Well, first of all, my sort of defining moment, I was 6 years old. My dad took me to see the Clancy Brothers and Tommy Macon. Legendary Celtic band, and they bounded on the stage. I was 5 rows back, and I just looked up, and in a heartbeat, I knew that's how I wanted to spend my life. I wanted to be that person that extolled, I guess, history and song. I mean, they had great stories. It was captivating, and how they threw themselves into their craft, and I've always admired that in anyone who can do it.
Well, what are the pieces? What are the pieces in that band, Bruce Coughlan? What type of instruments are being played, and what kind of music is coming out of that band?
Three brothers who grew up singing, and the youngest of them played guitar, and the other guy was named Tommy Macon, and he played a 5-string folk banjo and pennywhistle. So it had a very Irish flavor, but they were somewhat political in their approach. So having met them actually backstage at 6 years old, all starry-eyed, I decided at that point to take on the mantle of balladeer. And when I was just 14, or just shy of 14, actually, we moved to a different area, and I entered secondary school, high school in a different district, and I was kind of a little offbeat from the status quo. The music teacher kicked me out of band. He kicked me out of choir. He sat me down and told me I had no musical aptitude whatsoever. So I quit school there and then in a heartbeat. I walked out of the school at just shy of 14.
Well, now you see what the power of a teacher can do. They can discourage you and dissuade you. And, I think that there's many famous people that have gotten to the highest level of this industry have been told no quite a few times. The Beatles, David Bowie, Davy Jones, some of these, Rod Stewart, that have been turned down. So many of the greats. I'm sure Gordon Lightfoot had a few, and maybe Stan Rogers as well. Two of the guys that are mentioned in your bio. But all right, and one of the things that I've always loved, that I've always had an appreciation for, is not just the Irish music, but also the Scottish music. My half brother is half Scottish from South Carolina. His family came out of there, and I know that there's a big Scottish thing. But one of the first concerts that I went to in my formative years was the Royal Regiments on Parade, and it was drum and bugle, and then it was drum and bagpipe as well. Oh my gosh, I'm in tears. No words, no lyrics, all music, and I am bawling my eyes out as a teenage boy in Miami. Just loving it.
It's supposed to scare. It's supposed to frighten you. Oh. That's what the drums and the pipes are meant to do, is to instill a sense of awe, a sense of power to the people who are playing them, the soldiers that are fighting before them, and yeah, that's a martial music. Scotland to me is a land of poets and of amazing music. I've done 13 tours of Scotland. Last year, I spent a month immersing and engaging in Northeast Scottish music culture with some of the greatest musicians. Paul Anderson, one of the best, he epitomizes Aberdeenshire culture in his bow. He's an amazingly talented musician. And I got to basically hang out with him and play with him for a week. It's like, wow.
Well, one of the things that I remember when I was going into the concert, there were people outside in America, actually protesting the fact that there was a British, I guess these are parts of the British Army, right? And I guess they were protesting this has got to be the 80s, the mid 80s, early 80s. And they're still protesting the soldiers from 1776, from the war, the Independence War. The Brits are our allies. England, we're not fighting against each other, but there was still a group of people that were outside demonstrating and protesting the Royal Regiments on Parade. What gives? Has that ever happened?
In Canada, I think you get a lot more of the British culture and the Scottish culture in particular, which wasn't always English. As a matter of fact, there's quite a division in the two cultures. Having been there 13 times and always felt at home there, felt like, okay, it's a lovely, lovely culture. Felt attached to it, and so I went and had my ancestry test, my DNA tested. Turns out I have no Scottish blood whatsoever. That I'm of Irish descent, perhaps almost all the way. And I thought, well, in this day and age, when people can identify as they will, I may have been born Irish, but I identify as Scottish.
I feel that. I could feel that. I was born in Miami, half Cuban, and I never knew my dad's side so well. He's got roots I guess I have roots like a radish. My wife has roots like an oak tree. She can identify her ancestors all the way back to the Declaration of Independence. So, two of her ancestors one of them signed and one of them was supposed to sign, and I think he got hurt on the way, and there's a big blank space where it's supposed to be there. I can't get it right, but I know that she can get her ancestry back 200 years. Where did you find that your people came from with your ancestry?
County Cork, Ireland. I always sort of knew that they, but I always assumed that there was a part of me that was Scottish, and I do love the culture, and I do love the whiskey. I prefer it to Irish whiskey. I do love both cultures as far as, and I'd like to go visit Ireland. I've only been once, and that was way back in my 20s, so I think I'd have a different perspective on it now. Celtic music, regardless, whether it's the Celtic music that's landed in the New World, in places in the East and even in the West. I like to think that we're part of a new generation of Celtic music out in the West.
Well, I mean, the music, it gets prominently featured in many movies, Far and Away. One of my favorites, that features, I have no wish to fight you. Tom Cruise famously saying that before he knocks somebody's block off. And then, Irish music as they're playing, as they're fighting, you can hear the little drums and the penny whistles and the I guess the stringed instruments, and all this is what affected you, what molded you. Say again. What do you have?
Oh, I play the whistle as well.
You do? Okay. Now, at 6 years old, very defining moment in your life. What city are you in? Is this still in Canada?
Still in Vancouver, Canada.
Vancouver, born, raised your whole life there?
Yep. And I spent some time in the prairies in Alberta. But yeah, I've been a musician now for 50 years, and I have tried so many different types of music. My whole world is a series of immersing into a style and engaging with people who play that style and learning about the nuance and the history and becoming a part and finding my own voice within Celtic music, within doo-wop music. I've found my own voice within bluegrass music. And it's, to me, that's very, very rewarding, is to immerse to the point where, yeah, I get it. I know what this music is about, and I can pour myself into it. I can express myself in those terms. To me, I've done it, a half a dozen times throughout my career. Well, I've been a rock and roller. I've been a rhythm and blueser. I've been everything you can think of.
Well, that's you not limiting yourself, but you're coming through and paying your dues. Have you always wanted to be the front man, the guy singing as well as playing, or have you, when you joined bands, have you been the guy playing the penny whistle or playing the guitar or playing, whatever instruments? Well, how many instruments can you play?
Well, I've working knowledge of a half dozen. I'd say I'm a fair hand at whistle. I play acoustic and electric guitar. Acoustic guitar, I also play in an open tuning called DADGAD that is particular to Celtic music. And it's very popular in Ireland and Scotland. DADGAD. So you drop the two E's down to D and your B down to A.
You're speaking Dutch to me, because
for those guitarists in the house, they'll understand what the heck I'm talking about.
That's right, a little bit of inside baseball just for you. But I've had guitars. I've played a couple of chords. I couldn't tell you what they were, but I know a power chord, I know a blues chord, and I played a few of the tectonic scales as I was getting taught. But sadly, I no longer have those guitars. They were stolen, and they're gone forever. And I think I need to get another guitar and play, because I know that's a way to it's a form of meditation. But that's exactly what it is. And I tell people that who haven't played. Well, I played when I was in my teens. Well, then get your guitar out, tune the thing, sit it at the end of the couch, and turn off the TV or turn down the sound in a commercial.
sometimes it's that communion. It's being able to hear just that intimacy of hearing one string and how it harmonically affects the next one. Like you said, it's like a meditation. You can get into the simplest things. Learn 3 chords. Even if all you do is hit one string after the other and just listen to the interaction. That is a very rewarding thing.
Oh, it's that chord progression that humans have been playing with since we were able to make instruments, since we were banging on sticks and figuring out what the stringed instrument is. Just finding that chord progression that's pleasing to the ear. You go up, It makes you happy. You go down, it makes you feel a little melancholy. And the power that you have in the folk singer genre is to tell stories that are not only maybe stories about your life, but also about the world around us. You are the people that are spitting the news out melodically, teaching people what's going on in the world, opening people's eyes. I mean, how political do you get when you're telling your stories, when you're writing your songs?
Well, I've had a couple of things. Have you ever heard the story of Lolita the orca? She just passed recently. Anyhow, 6 years ago, she was virtually unknown. And I wrote a song called Bring Lolita Home. And it started a ball rolling. It started a groundswell of support for the notion that she could be introduced to her in her native home. And I know I met at that time quite a few people within that culture, the orca people, the researchers and all that sort of thing. So that was really rewarding. We really thought after 6 years, she was just months away, weeks away from coming home when she passed. But I'd like to think that song had something to do. I mean, we almost got there. I don't always have to be out front. And I've just learned that recently. I've always been kind of the lead singer just by, sing. Well, I can remember the words to 5,000 songs. I'm an idiot savant when it comes to remembering songs.
Let me stop you there.
I was once billed as a man with a phonographic memory.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. But let me stop you there. That story of Lolita the orca, where was she that she had to come home from? Where was she?
Okay, she was in Miami, Florida, at a place called Seaquarium. She was one of 30 juvenile orcas captured off our coastline in 1970. By 1986, she was the only one left living. She lasted 55 years in the North America's smallest marine enclosure.
Okay. I'm from Miami, Florida, and I know Seaquarium very well. Lolita, the reason she sounded so familiar, she has splashed me. I have had interaction with Lolita. I have offered schmelt to Lolita. I was picked out of the crowd to go.
She was an amazing spirit.
Yes.
That she could survive that long. After 16 years, all 29 other orcas had died under those conditions. She had another one in her, Cato, I think it was called, in the pen with her for the first 15 years, and he committed suicide.
Yeah, I don't know that animal. I'm so sorry that
he smashed his head against the bottom till he died.
Well, I know that that zoos and the Miami Seaquarium in particular has been controversial. As I grew older, as I became more cognizant, I learned that no, these animals are not getting all they need. They're not being treated. It's not like having a house pet, which is also controversial. You need to be able to treat your pets properly. I said I would never get a house pet, and here I have a cat, and she's the sweetest thing, and we treat her real nice. But she
But this wasn't something bred for domestication,
right?
And what we have learned in the last 50 years about orcas is they're probably as close to humans as any other creature. We look at apes and think, oh well, we see the obvious similarities. Orcas are the humans of the sea. They have tighter familial binds than most humans. They are amazing intellects. There's so many amazing things about them that we didn't know, and we just thought that they were just that we could train them and entertain people with them.
And I think people know this. If you watch Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, it's not just orcas, but they're talking about the dolphins that were so smart, and it was so long, thanks for all the fish, that they're smarter than we are. They're smarter than we think they are, and they probably have. Oh my goodness, it's
they have radar.
It's so controversial. They have that sense that's above and beyond ours. That they can get around using their sense of radar, their sense of sonar, their the echolocation, that kind of thing.
Yeah, marine mammals have, they're a parallel in many ways, but orcas are probably the closest intellectually and perhaps even spiritually as humans. They're so yeah. The things that you learn in this business, being somewhat of an activist, I'm just launching a new project called Peaceniks.
Who would say it again?
And it's Peaceniks. It's a collective of songwriters here in Vancouver, having songs that connect and reflect who we are as human beings. And the idea is that through content we can create community.
See, this is the type of music and the type of community that you're building in your area, thinking locally, acting globally. You're blowing my mind. I'm acting
globally too, but that's a whole other story.
Absolutely. You say you've been all over this great globe of ours, across the globe. When you go over to Scotland and go over to Ireland, go over to Europe and other places, Are you getting involved with the situations that are going on in those parts of the world?
No, I wouldn't presume. I'm there to observe and to learn.
Yeah.
Right. I'm not there to push any agenda. That's not my home. That's not my turf.
No, but through your music, you can not only observe, you can report as well. What did I see?
But I'm more about how to connect. Mm-hmm. One thing I learned as a balladeer, I wanted to preserve a degree of history as the tradition of the balladeer was, and that's how I learned a lot about Irish and Scottish history, was through songs, and the stuff attached to the songs. So I wanted to create, to a certain degree, that for Western Canada. And I've written dozens of songs about the history. And a lot in the flavor of Scotland and Ireland, because that's where a lot of these characters who I write about came from.
Listening to you and just feeling how you're talking about these, I fully believe that you would be comfortable being a traveling minstrel, having a guitar and singing through the streets of Scotland or Ireland, or even in in Canada, just singing in the streets and telling people the news of the day in song and entertaining them and also teaching them.
Perhaps 200 or 300 years ago, that would have been me. I feel a certain affinity to Scots vernacular language. And each January, I pay tribute to Robbie Burns.
Who's that?
Fair fire honest, suncy face, great chieftain o' the puddin' race, abon the ma you attack your place, fight trait therein, will I you wordy o' grace, that lines me air.
You're sending shivers up my spine. I'm feeling it. Oh, I'm feeling centuries coming out of your mouth.
Yeah, well, that's it. I feel like I'm part of a timeless tradition that, in many ways, predates written language. When it was the balladeer that brought at the marketplace that brought the community together. Mm-hmm. That teach sometimes, like you said, sing the news of the day for the wife to take home to the family. They used to sell broadsides, for a halfpenny, and it would have the lyrics to a song in a standard set to a standard melody, and that's another tradition that's lasted through the generations. Is Robbie Burns didn't write a lot of his own melodies. He wrote to melodies that already existed, so that people who had the lyrics in front of them could hear the melody.
Oh, there's only so many ways you can put the chords together. Songs are going to sound similar, but I think that's a great tradition that has been passed down. Is you find a melody and you put words to it, and it might be somebody else's melody. But you find more news that you can sing to the same song. The ABC song is "Twinkle Twinkle Little Star," and "God Bless America" is "God Save the Queen." It's all the same song that's been. I don't know if it's used for political reasons, for maybe I guess dastardly reasons, or if it's just having fun with
for
it.
A lot of reasons. It's interesting how it can be turned around. You've heard the song "When Johnny Comes Marching Home," right? That's a U.S. Civil War song, popular on both sides, about how the banners were going to fly and the kisses and the hugs would. Oh, it'll be such a great thing. And a couple of years later, an English lyricist wrote another version called "Johnny, I Hardly Knew You," about the wife who couldn't recognize her own husband. He had lost his legs and his arms and was blind. And so he put a spin on it, an anti-war spin on it, that wasn't all, oh, well, let's go cheer Johnny when he comes home, if he comes home, and if he's still in one piece.
Yeah, this is when you're first starting, this is the Vietnam War. This is, people that are fighting against, why are we over in this Asian country? I have no idea who these people are. Why am I killing people, going to exotic lands and killing people?
Killing people, yeah.
No war ever solved anything, really.
No, but the powerful will keep engaging. Old men will keep waging wars that young men die in.
I don't see that general on the front lines. I see poor Johnny, Private Johnny sitting on the front line.
And there's a lot of songs about that in the Irish and Scottish tradition, because back in the day when things got tight around the farm and there wasn't a lot of money, well, the Queen's shilling. They would take a job in the armed forces where they would be used as cannon fodder. Take the front line, take your turn taking a bullet. Taking a bullet for your country, even though you don't earn a square foot of land.
Yeah, there's so many songs. Let's do it for our country. What am I getting in return? But blood and horror and PTSD, shell shock.
Yep. And that's what I love about the Irish and the Scottish balladry, is it would speak truth to power hundreds of years ago. Robbie Burns was excellent at that. He had a song called "A Man's a Man for All That," which basically poked fun at the wealthy, the aristocracy, for just putting on airs. And it was just that was all about money. That wasn't the measure of a man. A man was a man who could look after things. He was the the backbone of society. It wasn't the other way around. See yon Berkey called a laird who struts and stares for all that. Though hundreds worship at his word, he's but a coof for all that.
When did Robbie Burns live?
Well, he was born in 1759 and died in 1794. I think he was only 36.
Wow.
When he died. He left behind him such an amazing wealth of truth to power. He preserved so much of Scottish culture that survives today. The concept of the haggis. The haggis, he exalted the haggis, took a perverse pride in eating what was pauper food. It was the stuff that was left over. It was entrails and wheat and oatmeal stuffed into a sheep's stomach. It wasn't what the aristocracy was eating. It was what the very poor had if they were lucky. And he ennobilized that to the point where we still eat haggis today, 200 and some odd years after his death.
Bruce, it sounds like a dare. Scottish food sounds like you were eating it on a dare. What other great foods have you eaten out there? Well, I guess are you still part of the United Kingdom?
Oh, black pudding. That's a lovely delicacy as well, especially if it comes from Stornoway and the Isle of Lewis. It's the loveliest thing of the Scottish palate, I guess you would call it, is a dish called Coughlan Skink.
It doesn't even sound appealing.
Okay, well, Coughlan is this beautiful little fishing village on the northeast of Scotland. It's a charming place, and skink is the name is a nickname for soup. So this is a soup that goes to comes from the place Cullen, and it's the loveliest thing you can imagine. It's simply an onion fried in butter, and then they put in smoked haddock. It's a beautiful white fish,
yes,
smoked, and they make that and milk. They make a chowder.
Okay. Doesn't sound horrible. It sounds pretty good. The onion, the butter, the haddock. Yeah. It's
a simple chowder, but the smoke in the haddock just brings it to life. It's like the best clam chowder you've ever had.
It sounds economical. It sounds like something that has been eaten for hundreds and hundreds of years. And
unfortunately, I would kill to get some smoked haddock from Cullen, where I live, and it's almost impossible.
Well, okay. Besides, what are you eating in your neck of the woods in Vancouver? Besides poutine?
Oh, I don't do the poutine very much. But there's a couple of places I can obtain haggis, and we're pretty. We've got a pretty multicultural society here in Vancouver. So at any given night, you can go out or you can order in pizza or Chinese. We got sushi anywhere great sushi, great Asian food, Indian food, Mexican, Thai, you name it. We have all those different palettes, and then musically speaking as well. Growing up in Vancouver, I've always been I've always seen music from other cultures. There's always the Asian influence. There's always the Indian influence. Of course, the Western influence, so to speak, the Irish and Scottish and all that.
Well, Bruce Coughlan, that's one of the things that you do. The first things that you do when you travel all around this world of ours, even across your country, even across Canada, what the first things you do is look for something to eat and look for some entertainment, look for some nightlife. And sometimes that's a solo man with a guitar, or a lady with a piccolo, or, a guy telling jokes, or a lady with a hula hoop. But there's...
Well, except for the hula hoop, I've been all the other things.
You've been those things. And, well, not the...
I have been those things. I've been a solo performer. Right now, I front about 6 or 7 different bands.
What are you doing? No day job? Is this sustaining you?
Yeah, it sustained me for pre-COVID for 45 years.
Yeah.
At COVID, I discovered that the film industry was still going, and we're Hollywood North in Vancouver, and I was still a member of the Actors Union.
Okay, so, how did that happen? When did you start acting? There's another avenue to explore.
I got into it as a consultant.
Okay,
I once consulted films on music culture and things like that. I worked on a few films, notably the Take Me Home, Country Roads, the John Denver story.
How sweet.
I was assistant music director, and this was 25 years ago. So I'd almost forgotten all about that. But when all the live music was shut down, film became, okay, and I'm union, so it's not a bad job.
Nice.
And there's a lot of perks. You show up first thing in the morning, what do? They feed you. That's the first thing they do, is they feed you.
Gotta love craft services.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a good fallback through that time. I'm trying to get past that. Well, transition past that now. But the writer's strike this year has kind of put a cramp in my style. I've been creative, gotten around it. Probably the one of the most lucrative forms of performance in this day and age in my particular region is, I guess you call them tribute acts.
Okay, yes, a cover band, I suppose. Yes.
I like taking a songbook and I just came back from a tour where I front a Van Morrison Moon Dance songbook. And it's a lovely 6-piece band, horns, got everything's there. It's just a lovely a bunch of folks to work with, and because it's roots, rhythm, and blues, when they take a ride, they're taking their own ride. They're interpreting it.
Yeah, that's a good party band. Van Morrison has all kinds of music. You can do some slow dancing. You can do some fast dancing. I think for a party, you could do a whole lot worse than having a.
Well, we're doing a theater. We're doing a theater show, and folks are responding really quite well. As well, I do I front another one called "In My Life," a Beatles retrospective, which started as a school show teaching kids in elementary school. Why the Beatles were the greatest band that ever was, and what the culture was like in their grandparents' time.
Yeah, and then somebody said, "Let's take it on the road." Somebody said, "Let's take it on the road." You took it on the road, didn't you?
We took it on the road, and we were doing 2 and 3 schools a day, and then a couple of the communities said, "Well, how can the kids get to see this? Why can't we have?" So they hosted a couple of concerts in the local theaters, and went, "Wow, this is." People really, and it's basically, we don't dress up like the Beatles. We're not trying to be, to play the part. It's more about, okay, there's 4 guys here who've been making their living at music. How do the Beatles fit into this? And just to know, to recall that culture with folks who lived through it when you were the coolest kid in school because you got the latest 45 by the Beatles.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite cover bands here in town is called Sloppy Kiss. And no, they don't dress completely like Kiss. Sometimes they'll put a little bit of eye makeup on, but they're dressed in their regular street clothes and they play the music of Kiss. And there's a Dirty Lindsay that plays all this 80s hair bands. And you're giving people gems. You can either go the route where you do cover bands and you can play weddings and corporate events, you may never get rich, but you might make a living, or you can go the route where you
over 50 years, I've done it all. I've done it all. I've been the cattle call. I've been. I'll send you a little link. It'll tell you all the things that I've done with music. I've been hired to play, to stand on a mountaintop while people played mini golf on a mountaintop on a glacier.
It's amazing.
Yeah, he helicoptered up onto a glacier at the mountaintop where 6 executives could do 8 rounds of mini golf.
And do you ever think to yourself, how did I get here? What am I doing with my life? And this is fantastic. You're looking out above the world. You're on top of the world, Ma, and you're looking down. I've
sang in airplanes. I've sang in trains. I've had gigs where I've worked in a cigar car, where I was taking requests in a cigar car on a train bound for Calgary, Alberta, in a corporate back in the day. There's so many, but just being willing to go, yeah, I can do that. I've dressed up as a Martian and sang Across the Universe and I have played on I have stood in front of 250,000 people on stage. It was 2008. It was Ottawa, and it was Parliament Hill in front of 250,000 people.
Wow. The feeling, the energy you're getting off of this crowd. Maybe they're not all there to see you, but they're all there to jibe and be together and, check out these different bands. I got to
jam with some of my Canadian heroes, Blue Rodeo. What a great bunch of guys to hang out with for a week.
Okay.
and to finish the night singing with.
Now I got to find out who Blue Rodeo is. See, you're schooling me. You're stumping the DJ.
No, you check out Blue Rodeo. They're kind of iconic. If there's such a thing as Americana, they are Canadiana. They are kind of that sort of thing. Their music is uniquely representative, and I like to think, in many ways, that my music is representative culturally of the environment that I grew up in.
I mean, I haven't been doing it as long as you have. I've been talking into microphones professionally since 1986, and I've enjoyed all the conversations that I've had with people. But mostly, my job has been to be a part of the community and to break out artists and to play the new songs. Here's a record. Take a listen to it. If you like it, will you put it on the air for me? Yes, I will. Take a listen. Okay, I like it. Let me put it on the air. Bruce Coughlan is going to be up on the next in the next hour, and I'm going to tell a little story with his liner notes. You have records out there. I miss the albums and liner notes and having the tactile. Oh, put the 12-inch on the platter and read the liner notes to the people as I introduce the song. Bruce Coughlan was thinking about this as he was writing this song. And this is a song about that. Here it is. Boom. Oh, I missed that. But you've been through that. You've had your records played on the air, and you've had records. Yes, kids.
I've been pressed on vinyl. The only thing I haven't had is an 8-track. But I've pressed on 7-inch, 12-inch vinyl. I've pressed on cassette. Pressed on CDs, now downloads and streaming. So I've outlived all these.
I'm sure there's a hipster out there that's looking for the Bruce Coughlan 8-track. The thing about 8-tracks, I want to explain this to my loyal listener. 8-track, you put it in and you listen to the whole album. There's no, unless you had one of the fancy ones. I did in my one of my cars, one of my parents' cars. They had the fast forward on one of them, But for the most part, you put an 8-track in, you're listening to that whole entire album front to back, getting, you know.
And you always had to have one of those little package of matches, because it would lose its grip and you'd have to jam it in there or you get that.
I've been on stations. I use the cart machine. And, you know, I have 4 cart machines. And for my loyal listener, a cart machine can either hold a song or maybe a commercial. And that's how we used to play them. And you take cart number 1, play a commercial. Cart number 2, play a song. Cart number 3, play another commercial and a jingle.
It was an industrial version of the 8-track.
Right. But sometime the last station, cart number 1 and cart number 4 played pretty good. Cart number 3, if you stuck a piece of cardboard in, would be okay. Don't use cart number 2 because it doesn't work at all. Oh my gosh. Yes. You're taking me back to AM 1080, WVCG, Coral Gables, Florida. Oh my gosh. But hey, there's so much that I haven't even tried to figure out. Have you gone to school for music? Have you learned how to read music? Or was this all self-taught? I
don't read a note. I have somehow I've developed a skill for memorizing music on so many levels. I mean, it doesn't usually take me more than 3 or 4 listens before I'll have a song down. And that's just a skill that I've developed over years. And it's a skill that serves me well because I also carry all those little riffs and melodies in my head when I'm writing my own music. I think I sort of draw from that larger, you know. I mean, I don't think to myself, "Oh, I'm going to write a Paul McCartney song" or anything like that. But I like to think that, oh yeah, there's a bit of that influence in there, and there's a bit of this, and there's a bit of that. All those values that sort of become part of my collective consciousness where music is concerned. I had an interesting conversation with a sax player friend of mine, and I was saying, you know, because we were out on tour and just a very quiet place, and I thought, this is so great. I said, in the absence of all the noise, all the hubbub of life, my brain creates symphonies. If I only have the unfettered time, the undistracted time to write, to figure it out, to record it, to write the lyric down, whatever that is, whatever that essential part of the next song is.
Oh, Mr. Coughlan, are you attempting to write your opus? I remember that Richard Dreyfuss movie, yeah. Mr. Holland's Opus, where he spent his whole life writing this amazing piece of music. Are you looking to write that one big piece of music, or are you, taking little bits and pieces?
At the end of the day, I'll want to have said that I've expressed myself in immerse myself, as I said. I'll be looking forward to a tour back down to the South, where I haven't played in a decade. And back then, I was really influenced by the roots of Americana music, the bluegrass, the old time. You were mentioning the Scottish connection to the South Carolina, and what became mountain music.
Yes.
What became old time music, and what eventually evolved into country music. So there's a lot of culture to unpack in the South and its connection. So I've enjoyed both sides of that equation in music, to the point of working with some of the best bluegrass musicians in the world, recording, writing, touring with some of the best Celtic musicians in the world. So it's certainly an adventure. I look at my life in music is kind of like an adventure novel, and each song is the next chapter. And who knows where it's going to come from, where that next inspiration, but I do like I like to go hunting for those occasions, and hopefully this next tour coming up, second week of November, with Rise Up TV. We're doing it's basically a reality TV show about life on the road. 5 or 6 musicians in a tour bus as they go from town to town to town. And we'll be covering a lot of my haunts of the past and running into quite a few of folks that I've written with and have toured with and have recorded with before. So it's going to be really nice to revisit that. And of course, the songs that I wrote at those times are very, come from me being in in that culture, immersed in that culture, playing with the musicians, and finding my voice within those nuances, within that structure, within okay, what chords do they play and how do they play them? Oh, they like open. Okay, everything's in G or it's in D. There's so many different evaluations to break down, and once I can do that, I can express myself as I'm looking forward. Someday I'll go to New Orleans and probably pop out a few jazz tunes, in the traditional style.
I'm so appreciative of Cindy Nini and the big records label that is helping to promote people. And, I know that there's a community that you're building up with people all over the world just using their services, I guess. And they're helping to build, get people together. You're talking about South Carolina and bluegrass music as opposed to as Scottish music and Irish music. I think, they replaced the penny whistle with a jug, maybe. And there's so much similarity there. There's there's a drum, there's a stringed instrument, and then there's a rhythm instrument of some kind. Yeah.
Yeah. But fiddle is the common ground there. And it's been carried through the generations for hundreds of years. So sure, it's taken on its own flavor, much like it has in Canada's East Coast and the Maritimes. They have their own, their own style, the Cape Breton style of fiddle that's unique to anywhere else in the world, but it's still passed down through the generations from Scottish fiddle.
Now, okay, this Rise Up TV thing that I've been hearing about. How do you get involved with that? Is that something you have to travel to someplace, or is it something that you could do from the comfort of your own studio, your own home?
No, it's a physical tour. Mm. Where we actually go out on tour in this bus, travel through a number of towns, and then you catch sort of the backstage view of what it's like, and musicians interacting with each other, jamming and songwriting, and what happens if the bus gets stuck, or this sort of thing. Okay, well, bus has run out of gas, or whatever. There's so many things that can typically go wrong. It isn't the lifestyle people imagine that it is. They, oh, what a great life! You must love what you do. Yeah, you take the smooth with the rough, and you find joy in those moments when you're with your own tribe, when you're enjoying the company of other musicians and sharing in that thing. I mean, there's music is a very rare form of communication that people who don't even speak the same language verbally can still find cohesion. They can find a place where, oh yeah, I get it.
Well, are there different legs of the tour? Are there different people that are going to be working with each other? Do you know what leg of the tour you're on, or who your bus mates are?
It's a 5-day. It's a 5-day tour, and it starts in Nashville on the 7th of November at 3rd and Lindsley.
Okay, that sounds specific.
Yep, 3rd and Lindsley is probably one of the top live venues. I mean, the Time Benders have a house gig on Monday nights. That's Vince Gill's band.
Yes.
Yeah, so Tuesday, our special guest, because in each town we'll have an artist representative of that town. We have Jerry Salley,
Okay.
who is, as far as Americana, he is written, he's written tunes for so many people in bluegrass, in gospel, in what's his name, Chris Stapleton. He's written a ton of songs for Chris Stapleton. So he's very well, he's almost a legendary Nashville songwriter and a person I've had the good fortune to have written with. So we'll be getting together at Third and Lindsley, and
that kid's pretty popular right now. That kid's pretty popular right now, I'll tell you.
Yeah. So yeah, just this tour kind of just pieces a lot of interesting bits of my past together. When we do finish off, we'll be in I think Charlotte, North Carolina, and we'll be visited by Josh Daniel, and he's a lovely, talented songwriter. Another fella who I've both performed with and written with, and he's from Charlotte, and so we have we'll be reconnecting and playing some of those songs. So it's going to really be a reunion tour for myself and my fiddle player Nolan Murray of many years. We've been working together for over a couple decades in a number of projects. Not for most of the time with my group Tiller's Folly, which is sort of the Celtic historical branch of Bruce Coughlan music, or whatever you call this adventure novel. But yeah, I'll keep work. What I want to do is keep playing well with others. Isn't that what your mother told you when she dropped you off at kindergarten? Now you play well with others.
Wasn't that a book? Everything I needed to learn, I learned in kindergarten.
Yeah, well, that's kind of conceptually where I'm at. Playing well with others.
Yes, and it's good.
Finding that common ground musically is a lovely thing. It's magical.
Well, you realize we can't do it all by ourselves. Yes, you can go and busk, and you can play a solo guitar at a restaurant and make a couple bucks here. Make your dinner. Sing for your supper, if you will. But if you have other people to join minds with, it makes it that much better. You're going to learn something. And I know that this podcast is primarily a learning podcast, and I'm so happy that I've gotten to learn from you, Bruce Coughlan. And I can't let you go without knowing, all right, songsmith.ca. Songsmith. That is a fantastic title. What makes you the Songsmith?
Well, just because I view myself as a what's the word? A journeyman, right? If you worked in stone, you'd be a stonesmith. If you were a journeyman, right? So it's basically a title a mantle I take on as someone who I believe is a journeyman at my craft, at songwriting. I can immerse myself in any number of styles, and one thing I do like to do is engage with other musicians. So you won't hear me making electronic music or using drum tracks or keyboard bass lines or anything like that. Every recording I ever made has real musicians. There's a drummer laying down the groove. There's a bass player carrying, cementing in the bottom end. It takes that kind of thing to make music that is, how would I say? I want to say there's a sincerity about it. There's a humanness about it. Yeah, to me, that's what music is. I can't get on board with, music that's made with an app on a phone. Oh yeah, punch in the 3 chords that you want. Here's the drums. and it auto fills in your bass track and your guitar track. And I'm just thinking, like, this is anti what music is all about. Music was meant to draw people together as a culture, as a group of people. And I'm not sure that contemporary music, I'm sure my parents didn't think the Beatles were, a culture building thing when they came out. What's with the long hair? Who are these freaks? But, oh, come on. Finish a sentence, would you? All the things that they may have thought, and now here we are, as I said, 50 years later, and that the Beatle culture is actually a thing you can look back on and go, well, what were the values there? They took their celebrity, I think, responsibly. They never, they never pushed for, even the song Revolution, where it talks about being able to stand up for what you believe in. As long as you don't get, destructive about it, as long as you, speak truth to power, but, don't abuse, don't get abusive about it.
No, it became a great sneaker advertisement after a while. Little did they know. Do you think that he was saying, Paul, I think I've written a great sneaker advert, revolution. No, and you're sticking to your guns with the non-electronics. I remember in '79, if I'm not mistaken, Van Halen famously said, "We'll never use synthesizers in our music." And then in 1983, they come up with "I Might As Well Jump" and Panama synthesizers everywhere. So I guess right. you progress, you grow, but you've done it in other ways. You've delved into different genres, put your stamp on different types of music without having to resort to electronica, which is great. Yeah. That means more musicians are getting jobs.
Boils down to a saying that a producer I worked with from Victoria, British Columbia. His name is Joby Baker. And at the door of the studio, before you walk in, there's this sticker, and it said, "Don't change the music. Let the music change you." And you kind of take that to heart and go, I can follow down this road or that road, and like I said, find my own voice within. But I'm not trying to change it. I'm just trying to find my own voice within it.
So beautiful. Oh my goodness. That could be the last words for the people that I usually finish this things off with. But I want people to know to go to songsmith.ca, find out all about you. If you have the ability, if you're anywhere in the area, go check out the Rise Up tour all over Nashville and the southeast.
Chattanooga. We'll be going from Nashville to Chattanooga. We'll be roaring through there like a train. Let's see. Where else? I should have all these dates in front of me. I'm just a little. Okay, what have I got here? I'm number 40 on Cashbox this month.
That's something. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's very cool. Now, where the heck is this? 30 Lindsley coming up. Oh, you bugger. Okay, where is it here? So very close. Here it is. Third Lindsley on the 7th. At November 8th, we'll be at Songbirds Foundation Theater in Chattanooga, Tennessee. On November 9th, we'll be at the Red Clay Music Foundry in Duluth, Georgia. And on November 10th, the Arts Place of Stokes in Danbury, North Carolina. And we'll be finishing up the tour on November 11th at the Free Range Brewing Company at Charlotte, North Carolina. So that's called the Rise Up TV Legacy in Motion Tour. And we're also touring in support of Friends of Keith Whitley Foundation. So, there's a lot of interesting things going on in this tour. And folks in Nashville, Chattanooga, Duluth, Danbury, and Charlotte, come on out. It's going to be a great show. You're going to get a lot of variety. It'll be myself, Nolan Murray, Tim Steinrich, Stephen Kay, Ronnie Call, and Sarah Smith.
Yeah, I've gotten a
different guests in each of these towns.
I've gotten a chance to talk to Tim Steinrich. He's a pretty cool fella, that's for sure. But it's a good show. I mean, Lori Mace, Sarah Smith, Dan Dennis, Stephen Kay, Ronnie Call. You got some good people on your leg of the tour. Are you all riding in the bus together?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because Sarah Smith and Tim and I, we were on well, Tim's been on a lot of these Rise Up tours, but Sarah and Tim and I have been on a couple together. So it's going to be old boys weekend. And Stephen Kay, he's got an odd connection to Nolan. They're both from Northeast Oregon. It was funny because the first time I talked to Stephen Kay, I realized that something familiar about him. Like I can't put my finger on it. There's something about the rhythm of the way he talks. There's something about, and then he said, "Oh yeah, from Pendleton, Oregon." And I'm thinking that's why it's so familiar. Nolan's from La Grande, Oregon. It's like it's like 30 miles away, and the culture is the same. That Northeast gentleman cowboy culture, what I like to call it. It's a very interesting, and again, a place I learned cowboy music.
This world is so big, but this music community makes it so small. We all come together with this music that you're doing. I mean, I say we. I don't play any instruments. My only ability is to promote you, is to get the word out about Bruce Coughlan and your friends as well. But I want to wind this thing down. I don't want this to be the last time that we talk. As time progresses, as you have more things to promote, definitely go on the Rise Up tour. But I want you to give shout outs to people that have helped you along the way. You've already given a few names out there. Give a few more names for people that have helped you out.
Oh my gosh, too many to mention. I think in the last year, I have probably played with 50 different musicians, performed on stage with some really amazing musicians, and that's what I want to continue to do. I love my brothers in the band, Tiller's Folly. We've been working together for 25 years. But at the same time, it's like you always know how it's like you finish each other's sentences.
Nice.
There's something really nice about knowing how somebody's going to react and even being entertained when they surprise you. Oh, hey, you never played that riff there before, sort of thing. After 25 years, so there's still that love of sort of the close knit band sort of thing. But I do really enjoy meeting and engaging with craftsmen and women across the entire, especially roots music. I like acoustic music, and I like when folks can just sit down and play.
All right. Well, I always like to finish these things off with last words for the people. This could be words to live by, something you heard a long time ago, maybe a mantra that you wake up with every morning, or just whatever pops into your head at this moment in time. Bruce Coughlan, been wonderful talking to you. Let's get the last words for the people.
Music, the toughest way to make an easy living.
Oh my goodness. There you have it, party people. Bruce Coughlan out of Canada. Oh, and check him out in Nashville and Chattanooga. I wonder if he's going to do the Chattanooga choo-choo. Pardon me, sir. Is that the Chattanooga choo-choo? It just makes sense. It just makes sense. And I can hear his penny whistle and his acoustic guitar all detuned in Irish fashion or Scottish fashion. Oh my goodness. Just putting his little spin on all these great Americana tunes and Canadiana tunes. Just bringing it all kinds of flavors in those Bruce Coughlan songs. Yeah. You're going to get a show. It's going to be a great show. The Rise Up TV show. I encourage you. Get there. Do it right now. Get to the show. If you don't catch the one on November 7th, then I encourage you to just follow that Rise Up TV all around with the big records. All right, my friends. Thank you so much, Bruce Coughlan, for being on the What Makes You Famous podcast. Let me close this one up. And now if you, yes, you, my loyal listener, if you'd like to tell your story, I encourage you to give me a call, 501-470-6386, or email keysdan@aol.com. That's it for me. It's keysdan, radiowhat.com, djlittlerock.com. Peace. I'm out of here.